Hello, beautiful souls. I am Valeria Maritza, your host here at Healing Through You. I am an infinite being of light, and so are you. My guest today is Cathy Weiss. She's an energy healer, and as you guys know, I love energy healers, because it is all about empowering ourselves and using our God-given gifts and abilities to heal our bodies. Not to say that medicine is not useful. It definitely is, but most of the things are available. We actually have the keys to that healing. So let's welcome Cathy. How are you? So glad to have you here and talk about energy healing, one of my favorite things to talk about since I'm an energy healing as well.
Yeah, hi. It's so great to be here. I'm really excited to dive in and kind of see where our conversation leads us today. And I can already feel like right at my heart that there's just so much goodness lining up for us here today.
Oh, yes. So excited. We had a nice little chat prior to today, but prior to our recording, and the energy is just so aligned, so good. But let's get started with you telling us a little bit about yourself, about how your life was before you discover energy healing
hmm
and
hmm
where you were.
hmm hmm I sometimes think of myself as kind of a hot mess. I was just so disconnected from who I really was. And I feel like so much of that is because I was raised by very well-intentioned parents who had this idea that, like the Great American Checklist, like, go to college, get a degree, get a career that has a good pension. That was the words used. Get a career that has a pension and buy a house and do all these things and you will be happy. And so I was going through those motions and getting into my first career and doing good at it. I mean, I was successful as an elementary school teacher, but I was also exhausted and kind of miserable and full of anxiety and discomfort all the time. Like I never felt comfortable in my own body or my own life. So to me, those early years just felt yucky and messy. So, um, at that same time, I had started doing some yoga, and yoga was helping because yoga really helps you to kind of get out of your thinking mind and just be in your body. And that was a very new experience for me. As time went by, I decided to become, or at least to do yoga teacher training. I can't say I decided to become a yoga teacher as much as I wanted to go through the training program just in case. And about a year later, my husband and I had decided that we were going to leave Los Angeles. We had been both born and raised there and move out to a place that is a little bit more rural. And as I was doing that, there was no yoga studio where I was going. And I was a little bit like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, where am I going to go for yoga? Because yoga is like my one real happy place. And
Mm.
over and over and over and over, people were saying to me, you should open a yoga studio. You should open a yoga studio. And I was like, no, I am a school teacher. I don't know anything about business. It's my happy place. I'm not doing that. And finally, one day, someone looked me in the eye because I was like, oh my God, everybody says that to me. And he was like, connect the dots.
Wow,
And
powerful.
that was like the universe finally taking the baseball bat to my head and saying like, you need to do this.
Wow, let me stop you a little bit here, because your story about like how you were taught, right? Like you do A, B, C, D, you go to school, you get a degree, you get a job with a pension. Like that's the old story that our parents were sold.
Yeah.
And then, they're doing the stuff and struggling through it and then selling us, their children, the same story. But something happened to our generation. Something happened that once we got to the ultimate part, it's like, wait a second, where's the dream? Right? Because it's the
hmm
same dream that had been sold to, generation after generation of like, go to college, get a job, you'll be happy, have a child or more, get a house, buy a house, get married. Like those were the things that you had to attain in order to be happy. Yet people in our generation, as they started to wake up, started to discover like, okay, I got it all done, check, 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 and yet something's missing.
100%.
Yeah. So, just wanted to like point this out, like, if there's somebody else out there that's also feeling like, hey, yeah, like I was told to do all these things and I did all the things and now I'm here and I'm not happy, you know. And also I love the story, the part about going into yoga because when we start waking up, we start looking at anything that is outside of the box, right? It
Hmm.
could be meditation, it could be yoga. I did the same thing, and I remember going through the story myself and thinking maybe I should teach yoga when I was taking classes, and then I would go to a meditation class. Maybe I should be a meditation teacher, and like I was trying to find myself, like what is my thing?
Yeah.
Right? So this is kind of like what went on for you, except it was in your face, like, hey,
It was so in my face. It was a little shocking. And for a while, I was actually all embarrassed. I did open a yoga studio, but then, you'd have to like go places and it would say occupation. I almost felt embarrassed about it because my education was to be a school teacher, and there was still a piece of my mind where I needed to overcome that sort of subconscious dialogue that this what felt non-traditional to me was somehow less than. So it was really a more about then the yoga studio showed up in my life to help me heal what like that programming,
yeah,
and that who
wow,
I was wasn't good enough unless I was doing something on, with the paper.
that is so true.
Yes.
I mean, even today, personally, my husband does not tell people what I do. He'd rather say I'm a
Interesting.
homemaker because this
Interesting.
is so shadowy for him. It's so like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's so weird. So this energy thing is so woo-woo.
Yeah,
But it is also science is catching up with it,
absolutely.
which is such a great thing. And many of us came into this life in that traditional sort of path to heal ourselves from it so that we could guide others, that it's safe to be the most authentic expression of yourself, no matter where that leads you. And the more you embrace and step into your authentic self, the more you're going to thrive and succeed. And here's what I love to say to people. We're all an extension of source energy. I think of it sometimes I call it the cosmic jellyfish because we're all tentacles coming down from the universe. So whatever is within us is divine,
Absolutely.
and it wants to be expressed. And the more we express it, the more amazing magical things happen. It's just a matter of getting out of our own thinking or that programming that it had to look a certain way.
Or you had to have that piece of paper.
Yeah, to validate it.
Yes.
Yes. But really, what I'm all about guiding women to understand is that your life path is meant to feel a certain way, not look a certain way. And the feeling that we're all striving for is authenticity, which is the highest vibration that humans can experience, followed by feelings of deep gratitude, appreciation, joy, and this feeling of being alive and
Mm,
engaged and engrossed in our life. So when we find those feelings, that's the path calling us forward.
I love that. And throughout all of this generational past programming, we have been taught to stop the feelings. Don't
Yes.
feel. Just
Yes,
think.
just don't feel anything.
Just don't feel, right? And that's the, the
Uh,
the direct disconnection from our divine self.
mhm,
Yeah.
100%. And so it takes practice getting used to having feelings and emotions that are anything other than boredom or numb checked outness.
Hmm.
And that it's okay to feel joy and that the other, so a lot of times people start to heal themselves and start to feel emotion. They also have an underlying fear of the other shoe is going to drop. And so
Oh,
I can't let
yes.
myself feel this great because something's going to happen to squash it. And I'm just going to go back down into depression or anxiety or overwhelm. And so I'm going back to numb right in the middle. So a big part of the healing process is learning how to feel and to feel the uncomfortable stuff, because if you can't feel uncomfortable, you can't feel the joy. Sorry.
Wow. Okay. So you opened your own yoga studio,
Yes, I
and
did.
then how did that go?
And
Did
that
you,
was,
yeah, go ahead.
you go ahead. Yeah, it was
Okay.
interesting.
I was gonna say, how did your family react to that?
So I am a family of me and my husband, and he is my yes man. Like whatever it is that I've wanted to do, I, yes, whatever. Let's make it happen. Um, So it was interesting because I had this image in my mind. There's no yoga studio here. I'm going to open a yoga studio and all the people are going to come. And that so didn't happen. And it was like this yoga studio showed up to teach me so many lessons. I can't even begin to list the lessons and the healing that that yoga studio showed up to teach me. Um, but it was fascinating. It went through a big metamorphosis a year in, and I created something called Yoga Flirt, which was the combination of the wisdom of yoga with pole fitness. And so even though it was a pole fitness class, women all the time would refer to it as their yoga class because I had incorporated this deep spiritual aspect to moving our bodies in a very embodied feminine sort of way. And that that experience felt like it needed to come through me into the world. And again, it was teaching me a lot of stuff along the way. And I closed that studio at the end of 2015. So it no longer exists.
Wow. So I love that you shared that you had this beautiful vision of I'm gonna do yoga, everybody's gonna come. I mean, after all, the science came from all the places that this was supposed to be your thing. And then you open it and it doesn't happen, it's not filled. Um, Tell us a little bit more about that because I feel it's so important for anyone who's going through a spiritual awakening or their spiritual path and they're like, okay, I got all the signs, this is what I'm meant to do, and then they do it and then it falls flat and then they begin to question their intuitive hits, or they begin to
Yeah.
question, like, did I get that message wrong? Or why are you telling me to do this if it's going to fail? And right? So tell us a little bit more about how you fell flat at the beginning and how it wasn't exactly what you were expecting and how'd you work yourself through that?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I have this image of this day where I was in this beautiful yoga studio that my husband helped me create. And I'm laying on my mat crying because there was no one there. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But I didn't know what else to do. Like here I was with this thing. And so the answer was just keep doing this until you do know what to do. And and it was never wrong. Like that whole experience was never wrong. And I think that's the biggest piece for people to understand. If you have followed a message that feels big like that, or a big intuitive hit, and you're feeling like it's failing or it isn't what you imagined, it's not wrong because our souls are on earth not for financial success or wealth. We're here for growth and expansion. And so it's like, what is that falling on your face moment there to teach you? And if you can be open to the lessons, you'll still be safe and supported. There's never been a time through all of that up and down and what felt like failure and what felt like success. And still, I still sometimes look back when I closed it into at the end of 2015. I still sometimes look back and feel like it was all a big failure as far as like the monetary success of it. But I was never not taken care of. I always had a roof over my head. There was always food. There was always technology. There was always my car. Like, you know what I mean? I never went without anything. The universe was there all along, making sure I had everything I needed to continue to learn and grow the things that I was acquiring for what was next on the path.
Amazing. I love that explanation. And it's so such a good explanation, and so glad we're talking about this because yeah, people do get discouraged when they don't know what the big plan is and they're listening, and it's so easy to just doubt yourself and be like, "Oh, I got that wrong and that was the wrong thing," or that was just, silly of me to follow that. And we beat ourselves up for it when it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come out the way we expect it to go,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So
The
that's the
universe
thing.
is always up to something good. That's one of my go-tos. And I teach it to a lot of women. When you are in those moments that feel very murky and very dark and very wrong, the universe is up to something good. Even with all of this, the universe is up to something good. And it can help you get through to the next good thing. And to remind yourself each day to find little things that do bring you joy, little things that do light you up, because those are the little tiny signposts that are taking you through the challenge to the next good thing.
Great. So, okay, so then you gave that a try and then you ended up closing it up. And what made you close it? Like, did you already have something else?
Yeah.
Right.
So no plan for when that studio closed other than what it felt like was lining up for me was this image of teaching small groups of women yoga, like in a little setting that kind of looked like a house, and that I would write a memoir at the same time. And weirdly enough, I kept like finding these closed doors, and I ended up teaching yoga for like 3 or 4 women out of my own house. And it was like only a little ways into doing that when I went, oh my gosh, this is the vision that I had. Like for some reason, I imagined like a place of business that looked like a little house when I was actually teaching yoga in my house. So sometimes it's a matter of you recognizing that the vision is coming true, maybe slightly differently than you imagined. So I was doing that and I wrote the memoir and I was so certain that I was going to publish this book because I entered it into this contest where they were going to select winners to get a publishing contract without needing an agent. And I was new to the law of attraction and I thought I knew how the law of attraction worked. And so I would deliberately sit down and I would visualize them giving me the phone call and I like down to what I was wearing and how I would react and respond and all of that. And the day comes for the announcement and there was no phone call. And so I was just, again, like devastated. I'm like, why is the universe leading me on all these pathways where the door keeps getting closed? So I was talking with a girlfriend about it, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to send you this deck of oracle cards. And I was like, I don't know what an oracle card is. I actually had to like Google what are oracle cards. And then when the deck arrived and I put my hands on it, I heard really loud and clear, you have to do this for other people.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So I just put on, I just still didn't really know what I was doing. I just put on Facebook, hey, I'm going to practice doing oracle card readings. Does anybody want to try that out with me? And I started doing that. And so for about 6 months, I was experimenting with like doing an oracle card reading with teaching yoga or like, how is this working? And through that process, I realized the cards were just like a tool, But what I was really doing was reading people's energy, and I was delivering messages from source and from their guides to create a very healing environment for them. And that's how I ended up now feeling so successful and like I'm so thriving as an energy healer and offering a 9 month program that really helps women connect this spiritual energy to their daily life.
I love that. I love how you mentioned that the oracle cards, you realized they became your tool, but you were actually reading energy.
Hmm.
Because this is so true. Everything that's out there, whether it's a crystal ball or magnets or tools or runes or whatever it is, they're just tools.
Hmm.
And they're there to give ourselves permission to believe in our own wisdom, in our own remembrance, in our own ability to see this energy.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. So the messages aren't actually in the cards. They're there to help pull the messages
Hmm.
out.
Yeah. Amazing. So, okay, wow. And I love how you like said, "Oh, I just put it on Facebook and I started practicing." I feel so many people are using Facebook as a tool to practice and
Hmm.
to come out and feel that certainty within themselves that they're actually able to do it.
Yes.
It's so useful. I
Yes.
used it myself when I first
Yeah.
started. Okay.
Yes.
So once you did that, you were playing with it, you realize you're actually receiving messages and reading energy for people. Then how do you go from that to creating a business and creating this new version of you where you're actually able to help people through energy and energy healings?
That's where you get to look back at this whole long path that seems very disjointed and winding and see that the universe was up to something because I have a background in education. And so now I have this 9 month program where I'm using all of those tools about how to be an effective educator in teaching women about their energy, about spiritual energy, and how to take action. I'm using all of that. And then when I was struggling through different iterations of my business, I had worked with various business coaches and taken online courses and programs that taught me how to um, explain what I do to people in a way that they can understand in a really simple, concise manner. And it also taught me how to set up a website and how to, do all of the stuff behind the scenes. All of that was those were all the lessons that I was learning through all of that other stuff that felt like it wasn't working out, but has now created this gorgeous, rich background, I guess, of tools and skills. So now I'm fully ready to be present, not in trying to figure out how to run a business, but in actually being able to provide the services that I offer with my full self because I'm not back here fumbling with the other stuff.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah, because really everything that we have gone through in our lives, whether it's, a difficult childhood or whatever paths or how many jobs we have taken, each one is building on the next just to bring us to the big reveal, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like and it's like a part of a reveal too, because there's even more happening in my world. But like when you're going through it, I would say it's like staying committed to the part that you're on to the best of your ability and healing what is showing up and asking you to be healed and learning to raise your vibration and learning how to feel those higher vibration emotions in each present moment. And just, it's hard to trust, but you can ask the universe to help you trust. Help me trust that this is leading me somewhere. And it is. It always is.
So I'm glad you mentioned healing because I was going to ask you, how did you know that there was healing that needed to happen within you? How did you know what modality to use or where to go for help through this? How did you end up using this new information to help yourself heal?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I don't think I knew on a conscious level that I needed to heal. Um, and I feel like where the conversation has come in the last 20 years has really changed for sure. And also the presence of social media and all of these different platforms has changed the conversation also because when I first started on my journey, with like yoga and things like that, there was literally no such thing as YouTube. I might have just let people know how old I am, but there was literally no such thing as YouTube or
Uh,
Facebook or any of it,
Google,
right? Or
Google.
Google. There was no such thing, literally no such thing. So, we just weren't talking about it that way. It was more like I just felt called from within me to go do this. And there was a time when I finally felt ready to go into those teacher training programs, and I've done several of them. And each one of them brought me more and more layers. And it was also, for a while, I was a self-help book junkie. I just felt really compelled to read a lot of self-help. So, oop, my little cat just jumped up. I can't say that there was like this definitive, I need to heal this thing as much as my energy drew what I needed
Hmm.
to me. And I then took the right action steps to kind of heal myself.
Yeah, I understand. I remember reading like the Wayne Dwyer books and
Hmm.
all, and The Secret, of course, and all of those books. Yeah, I guess it was more of a that's where I'm drawn. And now, after all this journey, we realize, oh, we were healing, and now we can use that word, which was really non-existent back then in terms of self-help.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Okay, so now, how do you help others? You mentioned you help women be able to empower themselves and see what they need, um, and allow themselves to just go with the flow without being attached to like the money situation and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit more about that, how you help people.
Absolutely. I do work with people one-on-one, and I also have this really amazing 9-month program that starts in the spring, and it's called the Joy Jedi Academy, because we're warriors for the light. And primarily women come to me when they're at they're like, this isn't where I thought I would be at this point in my life. I thought that A, B, or C would have happened by now, and what is wrong with me that this isn't happening? And so I I really help them understand their energy. So we have 5 energy layers and we break each of those layers down. We go through 3 main phases. We break the energy layers down. I break spiritual energy down into a way that they can understand because there's more to it than just the law of attraction. And then we go into a place of connection where we start to connect my energy, your energy with spiritual energy, and then integrate it finally into a wholeness so that we're using all of those amazing joy tools in a way that helps women lose weight, make more money, overcome anxiety. That's a huge, I feel like I need to change the order because usually what I see happen is the anxiety starts to decrease and then the money and the weight and everything else starts to come into place as they embody more calm and more confidence because they aren't throwing darts at this energetic dartboard anymore. They're actually understanding like how to be very precise with it. And all of that leads them to feeling like their own authentic self in a way that most of them have never felt before.
I love that.
It's so powerful. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just feel your energy, how aligned you are with what you're doing now. So how do you feel about what you're doing now in comparison to what you were doing back in the day when you were teaching and doing the thing because that's what you were supposed to do?
I feel 100% confident. Like I know if any woman is drawn to this and signs up for the program, I know without a doubt that she's going to experience the change that she's seeking. Period. and I never had that confidence before. And I feel very clear. Like I'm able to exactly articulate what's going to happen. Whereas in the past, they'd be like, well, yeah, you come to yoga and it's nice and you feel better. And people would say, well, why do I feel so much better? I'm like, I don't know, because you did yoga. Like I just didn't have the inner confidence and the inner resources to be able to say, this is why. Um, so yeah, the clarity and the confidence and just there's just a knowing that I didn't have through all of the other stuff. I was always like, anybody could teach kids to read, anybody can teach yoga, but now I know that there is no one who delivers the Joy Jedi program besides
Mhm.
me, and no one teaches it exactly the way that I do. So it's really meant for women who are like feel like little moths to a flame. They're like, I want to be a Joy Jedi. That sounds so fun and so exciting. And I know there's no one else on the planet but me who's meant to do this.
I love that embodiment because yeah, exactly there's hundreds, thousands of energy healers and but each one has their own unique way to connect, to help people, to teach. And that is a huge thing because I do know some people coming out say, oh, but there's so many people doing it. Like, how am I going to do it? Or how am I like, what do I have to give when, there's so many and they're so good, right? That whole comparison of like, they're so good because we see it and we haven't tried it yet.
Hmm.
So tell us, what would you tell somebody who is like on that verge, like they know they have some type of ability that they have awoken within themselves and they're ready to start, but they're so afraid to try it because they're comparing themselves to others. And yeah, just speak a little bit more about that.
Jump in, jump in. I mean, for real, the only way you're going to move forward into your unique expression is to start doing it and fumble around. My goodness. I mean, like we just had like look at my long winding path. It took me a lot of years to get to this certainty. And maybe that's probably one of the conundrums that we have in the social media realm right now is there is an illusion that I just started doing it and now I'm successful and there was no struggle and there was no learning curve or any of that. Um, but remember, most of the people that you're watching are showing up be because they've done all of that stuff, right? So we don't typically start to follow and watch people who are not there, I guess is the right way to explain it. Um, it takes time and it takes practice because we are spiritual beings, 100%, but we chose a human physical reality. And so while in the spiritual realm, there is no such thing as time or a timeline, in the human experience, there is. And so the only way we're going to get there is by walking through the human experience of time in order to develop the skills.
Mm, beautifully said. I love that. Amazing. Okay, so um, I wanted to go back. You mentioned that you wrote a book. Did you write a book?
I did. Yeah.
Yes. And then, so what happened with that?
I did write a book. I've written two books. One of them is a guidebook for a deck of oracle cards. That one was self-published, but the other one that I was referring to, um, kind of in this time when I was closing down my studio and not really sure exactly what was coming next, is a friend of mine who is a really great reader was like, they want you to write a book and you can do it now or you can do it later, but they want you to write a book. And I was like, well, I might as well do it now because I don't know what else I'm doing. I mean, I jumped in. I took like an online course on how to write a memoir and I read books on how to do it. And like every day for 4 hours, whether I had a lot to write or not, I sat down and I wrote an entire memoir. And then I edited it down. I liked all the things for like 16 months I spent on this. Um, and then that was the book that I had entered into the publishing contest and didn't get the contract. And I still hung out with it for a little while. I was like, well, maybe it just needs more help, like copy editing and things like that. And at that time, I was like, universe, if I am meant to continue forward with this, I need this amount of money to hire some professional help. And if that money falls out of the sky, that is exactly what I'm going to do. That money never fell out of the sky. And I just decided to not continue forward with actually getting it published. I know I could self-publish it, but like when I feel inside of myself, um, should I self-publish this book? I always get a no. I always get a no. And I trust that. And
Yeah.
so people will be like, why did you go through the process of writing this entire book if you didn't publish it? And again, it's like that process brought me a lot of healing. It moved a lot of old energy out of my body and a lot of old stories that I had been holding on to out of here into a container. So it
Mhm.
doesn't negate the things that happened to me in my past, but it has given them a space to live that's not in my physical being. And that was when my vibration really started to change. So
Oh.
I find that the act of having written that book was incredibly powerful for me. And I still say never.
Hmm.
Never say, there may come a time where it will feel right to come back to it and probably give it a whole bunch of love because it would need that um, to kind of come up to date with where I am at this point in my life, or at least I probably would have more clarity about what I would want the book to offer to people. I think at that point it was just like getting it all out, really more than
Yeah.
actually having like a good point for it to serve other people. Um, so yeah, never say never, but for right now, it's just hanging out over there on my shelf.
Well, it's just another beautiful example about receiving the message and going along with it, write this book, and okay, I'm gonna write it, spending all that time and trusting that there's something or a reason higher than yourselves, higher than what you know as a human, and you go through with it. And yeah, it was perhaps at that time or up to now never meant to be published, but what it was meant to do was to open you up by helping you heal.
Mm-hmm.
That's so
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
think about it now, I haven't thought about it in a long time, but when I think about it now, it feels like a relief.
Yeah.
It feels like, oh my God, what a relief to get all of that stuff out of me. So
Yeah.
it's a super, super valuable process. And maybe this is such a good conversation because I don't think a lot of people talk about receiving messages and taking action that don't lead to what we would consider outward success. And I feel like the vast majority of the messages and things that I have followed, if you were to look at like a traditional measure of success, that's that's not there. But
Hmm.
the success and what has come in has been this massive internal growth and expansion that has brought me to a place where I can absolutely help other people. And that is so much more valuable than anything else. So I like having the courage to follow guidance that a lot of people are going to tell you is crazy because what's the reward? What's the outcome? What's the point?
Hmm.
The universe is so much smarter than we are on all of this kind of stuff. And the point is, again, the growth and expansion of your soul, not your bank account.
Yeah. I love that explanation. There was something I was going to ask you about the whole, oh, I know, it was about the journaling. So you writing the book is like journaling, right? And journaling I find so helpful and healing for so many people. I use it all the time with my clients, like journal about this and prompts and stuff, and you see it all over the place. And it really does have that power of you getting out of you, just like you mentioned, whatever you're holding and placing it somewhere. So
Hmm.
it's no longer like, okay, I mean, yes, breath work works as well, energy healing, all things work, but this is a physical thing that you have and you feel and you put mind to body when you wrote this out, and it really creates this space of healing when you're writing.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a tool that I also
Hmm.
offer my women, and I will sometimes download very specific prompts for them.
Hmm.
And I have a bonus session called Your Hero's Journey, where we look at the sort of the arc of a hero's journey as a healing process as well, where you do some writing around it. Yeah, because it's sort of like very deliberately emptying things out of you, which very much clears up your vibrational field.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I journaled a lot back in the day, and I had lots of journals, and they were, I thought they were so good. I'm like, oh, this should be a book. I mean, it's such good material here.
Yeah.
Never went back to reading it. Didn't feel a need for it, and then
Hmm.
I ended up burning them and
Hmm.
destroying them before, because I moved, and I was like, I don't want to take this stuff with me. And then I realized it wasn't like writing all this stuff down, to publish, to make a book, or to tell the story. It was more of me healing and putting it out of me. Because
Hmm.
after you write, you definitely feel better.
Oh, always. And I'm a huge fan of burning things too. I'm like, because it's done and we don't need to go back to it. It
Yeah.
doesn't, again, it doesn't dishonor the past at all. It's not saying that didn't happen. It's not saying some of those things weren't terrible or unfortunate, but it frees you to move beyond them. So I am all about setting that stuff on fire.
And it's non-judgmental too,
Yeah. Oh,
because
totally.
it just listens.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's a safe place to do that. Amazing. Well, tell us, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Cathy-Weiss.com. Super easy. And then on Instagram or on TikTok, I am at Magic and Joy Journeys.
Love it. And I'm going to put all of your information in the description of the notes of this show as well. So if you didn't have a pen and you wanted to go and get the information, just go and look in that area. So Kathy, tell us, is there something that I didn't ask, or something that you want to share or tell people that we have not covered yet in this conversation?
Oh gosh, it was so juicy today. I feel like we got a lot of really, really great information
Yeah.
for everybody. I just keep wanting to go back to my heart. So, like, it's really about feeling into your own heart and moving forward either on your own or with a guide. Because a guide is someone to walk by your side and kind of hold your hand through some of that and give you some signposts when you are feeling uncertain along the way. Um, but ultimately, no one has ever walked your exact path. Right? No one's ever going to have the exact same guidance as you. So, learning to have the courage to trust and follow your impulses is the magic key. It really is.
Amazing. I love it. Yeah. Wow. Wow, this is such a great conversation. Thank you so much, Kathy, for coming here to my show and sharing your wisdom, your beautiful energy, and all the things that you do for the world.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Well, with that, I'll let you guys go, and I will see you next time. Bye.
We came right back.
We came right back, just like you said. We're having so much fun, guys. So this dropped in as like, we're not done. There's something that you haven't spoken about. So here we are back. So I'm going to ask the question on the recording now, Kathy. It is the new year. It's
Yes.
brand new year. And so many people have like their visions on what they should do, um, so that, go on with their new ideas, or whatever it is that their manifestations, whatever it is that they want to do. So what do you see, or what information do you have coming forward for this new year for everybody?
Yeah, so good. First of all, guys, we when we started talking, I wish you could see like all the hairs on my arm are standing up. I got covered in chills, which is my yes symbol from the universe that this was the message that we needed to make sure that you heard. And right away when we started kind of talking about it, I was like, oh, people need to pull away from the shoulds and to stop shoulding on themselves, right? I should lose weight. I should make more money. I should do this, whatever it is, because the shoulds are coming from your head brain. And that lets us know there is a disconnection from your heart brain. And we know that the heart actually functions like a brain. There is science that supports this. It has its own sort of a nervous system and it processes your emotions. And what shows up in your heart is the what and the why. And your head brain's job is just the how. Your head brain should just be the logistics. So if you feel like, I really want to take a trip to Bali this year, I really want to take my kids to Disneyland. I really want to apply for that job I'm not fully qualified for. I really want to see what it's like living in a different city. The shoulds get into the way and say, yeah, you know what you should do is pay off your bills. You know what you should do is go to the gym even though you hate it. You know what you should do, blah, 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 blah. And we start to talk ourselves out of the real thing that our heart is desiring, when really the role of the head brain is, okay, let's update our resume. Okay, let's start filling out the application. Maybe we're going to see all the qualifications that we do have that could apply to this. Okay, let's update our passports if we're going to Bali, or, whatever it is, that's the head brain's job. So for 2025, what we're going to encourage you to do is catch yourself the moment your heart calls you forward and you shut it down with a, but I should.
Yes. Love it, love it, love it. The should is so judgmental. And let's get rid of the judgment for this year. Let's put it behind and just allow ourselves to live more with the heart. Yes. Amazing. I'm so glad we came back.
Yep. And if you need help with that, you might be interested in checking out the Joy Jedi Academy.
Absolutely. And I'll put other links there so you can check it out. I believe you said it starts in the spring, so you have plenty of time to look into that and to connect with Cathy and, see some of her information on Instagram and different places that she has so you get more used to what she has to offer and then jump right in if you feel aligned with that. So thank you. Okay, now this is the real goodbye.
The real goodbye.
Oh, I love it. I love the way the spirit works.
Me too. It was so good.
Thank you so much, Cathy. Thank you for staying here for delivering that last message for us.
My pleasure.
Okay, bye-bye. And with that, I just love, love, love the way that that message came through. Like we got off, we said goodbye, and I was like, "There's something missing, something missing. Like it's coming through, it's coming through." It's like, and then the question showed up. So glad we were able to deliver that last message for you guys. I hope that it's been really helpful for you. Happy New Year. Remember, if you like the content of this podcast, please subscribe, leave a message, leave a comment, because all of those things really do help this podcast and the messages to be seen and found by other people. And of course, if you really like this, share with as many people as you feel will really benefit from the information that you're seeing in this podcast. With that, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for being here. I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.